photography for like competitions, and I get into. I've been in right now still no. Last weekend I was at some of my photography was in a show in Barcelona. So
wow.
Yeah.
Well, groovy. Why don't we get this show on the road? We have a guest host tonight. Cyndi Coon is the hostess with the mostest. Leah's off doing professional photography stuff. Welcome, Cyndi.
Well, I think it's really funny that it's like Kyle really wants to hear me talk more. So here I am, and you're all going to suffer on through. So I'm happy to be here and excited to have fun and not feel like I'm talking too much. So now I have a platform.
Tell us all how you've been.
I've been great. Yeah. I have lots of stuff to share. It's going to be like, I'll try to not share so much, but just so many things. It's funny. I think lots and lots of us kind of shared over the last month that we had a weird kind of slowdown and like, what's happening and what am I doing and what am I actually interested in playing with? And everybody was kind of in that space, and I found myself there too. And now, just because of my own toying, I find myself better again, better in the AI therapy space, right? Like I'm back at it in a way. Yeah, it was like a downturn of like, oh God, what is everything? But I don't know. I feel like I have a focus again.
But you've been playing, and I'm gonna call you out on something. So Cyndi drove.
It's true.
From her state, somewhere south of me, to Denver, and didn't come see me.
Right. And so I knew that was going to come up. So now I have a rebuttal.
Okay, go on. Rebut.
It is true. I was in Denver last night, left this morning. And I thought, make time for Kyle, right? But then I remembered Kyle has a repeat incident that he has yet to prioritize me in his email. So this was my way to demonstrate to him that I can't prioritize him in person if he cannot prioritize. He's got some kind of email system. And when I ping him and go, did you read it? Did you read it? He's like, I didn't get anything from you. And that is because I've discovered twice now, you guys, that he comfortably responds back to me, oh, I'm sorry, you were not on my priority list. Okay. So until he fixes that.
Okay, yeah, I'll get that. Thank you. I'll be ready.
I use a little obscure email platform called Gmail, and it for whatever reason has started like I do the smart inbox, and it only shows you things that are marked priority, and it's just been deprioritizing people. So I've been missing very important emails. It's been bad. So it's not personal, but
and it's not personal that I went to Denver for someone other than you. I mean, work.
So sad. Some hip band.
So I did, y'all. I just drove in. I've been back about an hour and a half. I'm about 5.5 hours south of Denver. I was there last night for a concert with my children. So I hauled ass back to get here today.
Exactly.
Through the pouring torrential rains of the mountains.
Well, thank you for joining. Yeah, I'm feeling similarly like there's a light at the end of the tunnel. The new O1 model, we'll talk a little bit about that tonight. The new O1 model from OpenAI, I find fascinating, mostly because I think it's really good, but the response to it has been all over the place, right? And all over the place in different sectors. Like some programmers are like, it's the best programming thing ever, and others are like, it's absolutely horrible at programming. There's some people who are like, it's horrible at writing, but it's good at this, and I'm finding it really good at writing. So it's like it's kind of all over the place, but that's sort of spun a little bit of life back into things, and then. So I'm feeling similarly inspired, but I don't feel like I'm focused yet. I still feel like I'm spinning like a whirling dervish. And listen, that's what's on screen here. So if you're new to the salon, this journey to AI literacy starts with play first for a reason. That especially now that there are so many tools that are so good, it's actually impossible to dig deep on all of them, right? And it's actually impossible to even go shallow on all of them. There's just too many. And so just that idea of just playing with these tools and finding out what works and what doesn't, especially when you have something new like the new reasoning model from OpenAI, where it just behaves differently. The only way to really understand how it works is to play. And so this idea of play first, then start to build stuff with it, and then share what you're learning along the way. That's what the salon's all about. The salon's been around since the week after ChatGPT came out in December of 2022 was our first meeting. And yeah, so it's a fantastic thing. Cyndi, do you want to do? Are you up for reading the value?
Oh, I can. I didn't get on there yet. Hold on. Hold, please. I'm going to the page.
I'm going to go there too.
I was on the invite page so I could find the link.
Yeah. So if you go to the salon page, you'll notice there's a new sort of 7-step welcoming thing. We've been working on improving the user experience. I'm going to talk about this a bit later, but improving the onboarding experience and improving the overall experience on the salon community. And so in the very first step, number 1, welcome to the salon, you can see this journey to AI literacy. Play first. At AI Salon, we play first, joyfully exploring generative AI, gaining the knowledge and inspiration to mindfully create, surprising ourselves and powerfully meeting challenges, unleashing us to generously lead others, enriching lives, redefining what's possible, and unlocking a new era of human achievement. And that's what this community is all about. And I know a lot of you have been here before, but I think it's always a good reminder to do that. And hang on, I think someone's in here. I need to let in. And Vicky, I'm going to make you a co-host. So if you can let people in, add as co-host. I could remove you from the call, but I think I'll add you as a co-host. Okay. There you go. And so the second step of starting your adventure is introducing yourself. So here's a request I have for you. If you've been to a lot of these meetings, but you've never actually introduced yourself on the AI Salon in the community, I would encourage you to do that. So jump over there and introduce yourself. And then the third step in sort of getting on board with the community is talk about our values. And so the values. Sorry, Cyndi?
I'm there, so if you want me to read, I'm happy to.
I do. I would love you to. So the whole idea of values is that this is not who we want to be. This is who we are. And why we read these every meeting is just to remind ourselves, if you're not being these, jump in, lean into this, because a community that has these values is quite remarkable. So, Cyndi, I will let you take it from there.
I'm going to read them happily. First one, curiosity. We are eager to ask the obvious questions, learn new things, and experiment. Experiment, experiment. Our relentless quest for adventure and exploration ignites our inner spark, transforming our curiosity into unexpected discoveries and newfound passions. Next, playfulness. We value creativity, joy, and the freedom to experiment. We play first and transform learning into a captivating journey. We collaborate and mindfully create together when we can to learn more, make friends, and develop new circles of trust. Remember, All work and no play is how we did things before the AI Salon. Empathy. We are respectful, inclusive, and kind. We value diverse perspectives, recognizing that our differences make us stronger. We accept that people might be afraid and angry, and we work to understand them. We actively practice gratitude and acknowledge the efforts and successes of those around us. All humans matter. Bravery. We have the courage to step into the unknown, taking bold actions in the face of fear and challenging ourselves to push the boundaries of what we thought possible. Let's face it, with everything changing as fast as it is, we are making this up as we are going along anyway. Might as well be brave about it. And finally, generosity. We are willing to share our resources, feedback, and wisdom with others and support each other's growth and development. There is so much happening, so much to learn. We can't possibly keep up with it all. Understand that even if something is obvious to you, it might be a profound revelation to someone else. Learn out loud, share what you know, and generously lead.
Awesome. As you were reading the bravery one, I want to share a bravery fail. Because I figure, part of doing these values is to really just think about, am I being that? My bravery fail was this: about 3 or 4 weeks ago, when Cursor AI was getting all that attention, where all these programmers like Cursor AI is amazing and this and that, and I just chickened out from it, because what I knew about it, when I went to look at playing with it, it could make code, but I had to set up my own environments, and I had to set up databases, and I set up web servers, and I was just like, I don't want to, I don't really know how to do it, and I don't want to feel stupid, and so I didn't do it. And then Replit came out with their thing that does all that crap for you. So I was like, yes.
Mm-hmm.
I was rewarded for my cowardice, but it was a total bravery fail, where I could have just jumped in, but I think it's important, actually.
Kyle, I think your reaction is the right one, which is, if something seems unnecessarily difficult,
just
don't do it for a while and wait for someone to make it easier.
I think that's right. I think that's absolutely right. Oh, you're muted.
Or that's when you need to do it the most.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the part of why that's there is that, if all your life you've told yourself, I can't be an artist, and you're afraid to do image generation because you're afraid you're going to be bad at it, right? That is a time to lean into it. So part of it, I can justify some of it, but I should have jumped in. Anyway, okay, let's.
I have to say really quick before you jump onto the next thing.
Yeah.
I've read those values before to myself, but I've never read them out loud. So I have to say, midway through, I had this sort of tummy feeling that I was like, oh, hey, this is a really good exercise to everyone who visits, everyone who's hanging out here, go on your own time and just read those out loud into the room. Because I have to say, it hit really differently to read that aloud than the times I've gone in there. And whenever you say there's an update, I always go in and I read it.
Yeah.
But I read it to myself and I'm skimming through. But to have to say the words out loud and own them as a person, all of it, all the way down, is a really interesting experience. So I just wanted to share. I really had a moment there where I was like, oh my God, it's like, yes, I know all of this, and it feels like a pledge in a really good way. That was totally different. I've never read those out loud to myself or anyway. So
yeah, there's something different about doing it in your head versus doing it out loud.
It's true.
You can just sort of skip over stuff when you're reading it, but when you have to say it out loud.
Mm-hmm.
All right, got some people. Beautiful. Okay, so I don't know. We've got Brandon here. Anyone from any guilds want to talk about their guilds tonight? Brandon, you want to talk about your club? Vicky, you want to talk about that?
Come back to me, or if Dr. J's here, she can talk.
Okay. Is Claire here? Claire's here. Hey, Claire.
Sorry, I was hitting the wrong mic. So if I turned off one of you, my apologies. We are the AI Life Hacks Club, and I just wanted to let everybody know that we're going strong and generating really cool ideas, sharing them with each other. Their next meeting is tomorrow, so all of you who have a hole in your schedule around 5:30 Mountain Time, come on over, join us. It should be another really fun time.
Is this going to be a club that turns into a book or a workshop, or like what are you gathering? What are you excited about of what you're gathering?
Right now, it's been we've been keeping it sort of on the personal level in the sense that we're not recording it, so that people can feel comfortable to share whatever life hacks they've come up with AI. But my brain is going crazy right now thinking about a book. What a great idea.
I am now of any piece of thing you create can now be multiple outputs, right? A book, a song, a music, a movie, a podcast. Now we'll
exactly
that tonight.
I'm a children's book author. I've authored 4. Not since 2007, but I know the whole process if anyone ever wants.
Very cool.
Beautiful. Love it. Yeah, exactly.
Thanks, Khaki.
Sure.
So there were a question in the chat, for example. So it could be really anything. So we had a member come in and talk about custom GPTs that she's using to help her day-to-day activity. I took a picture of a shopping aisle the other day when I was trying to find a specific product, and it was out of stock. So I asked ChatGPT, Vision, what should I use instead? And it pinpointed the exact product that I needed. There's definitely interest in children's book authorship. So I would encourage you to please join our AI Life Hacks Club. And never know where it's going to go.
Beautiful. Awesome. Any other guild updates? All right, cool.
We couldn't get any for the newsletter either, so.
Okay, so our guild masters are off trolloping about.
They're out gilding.
They're out gilding. Good. Well, so I thought it might be good to give you an update. I was in Washington, D.C. last week, and I figured it'd be good to just give an update on what happened. So I was there. there were 11 other AI companies there. The salon was a sponsoring member, so it was Google for Small Business and the salon that sponsored the event. And actually, as we went to the different offices and things like that, we were representing the salon, and we met with staffers from 6 different, 4 different senators and 2 different Congress people. Diana DeGette out of Colorado was one of the Congress people, and then I forget the other one. We met with the 2 offices of the 2 senators of Colorado, Bennett and Hickenlooper. We got covered in Politico. So on the Hill, founders of a dozen AI-focused startups met Wednesday with staffer lawmakers for almost 24 offices as part of a fly-in organized by the salon. So we got some press, which is exciting. And the meetings were quite interesting. I've never done that before. If you've ever done it, it's a trip because you're kind of walking down the hallways and seeing plaques of people that you've either turned into heroes or you've demonized or vilified, and so and then you just realize there's just people in there, and we met with varying degrees of staffers. We didn't meet with any actual lawmakers, but the staffers kind of ranged from mildly interested and polite to incredibly smart and incredibly engaged on the topic. We met with Senator Budd out of North Carolina. His staffer was just kind of a young guy that was decently smart. He was very much like, we care about this, what you're saying is important, and here's the other stuff. He was the first one that kind of said, we're probably not going to see any legislation from the feds for 2 or 3 years. And I said, so we're going to have a nightmare, patchwork of state by state laws. And he said, yeah, probably. So that was a little depressing. And then the next office we met with was Josh Hawley of Missouri, the guy I'm standing with there, George. He's from St. Louis, and so he was the constituent of Hawley, and who the staffer that we met with from the Hawley office was the counsel. So he was a lawyer. He was wicked smart, really knew the issues. As we were talking, he was challenging us on stuff, asking clarifying questions. And, I got a real sense from him that, they're really paying attention to this stuff. And he was asking very, very good questions. Some of the other folks basically said about AI that 6 or 8 months ago. So remember 6 or 8 months ago when we were all hot and bothered about AI and we were all up in a lather? So was Washington, D.C. And so they said about, 6 to 8 months ago when AI was the hot topic, things were moving very, very quickly. He said, since then, just like we've noticed a lull, they noticed a lull. So other things have taken priority. So what that kind of indicates to some of the people that were talking to us is that it's just going to take longer for the feds to move on something if there's not, sort of active drive from the constituents. The last 2 meetings I went to were Senator Bennett's office and Senator Hickenlooper's office. Bennett, we didn't actually meet with the staffer we were supposed to, so it was a junior person, and she was polite, but, just polite. And then the Hickenlooper staffer was a guy named Sam Boger, Boger, and he's got a master's in computer science. He's an engineer, very into AI, completely understood all the things we were talking about, super engaged, was asking us questions about, well, if we approach legislation this way, would that be good, or this way? How would you sort of categorize different constituents, and how should regulations apply to different constituents or different approaches? And we were saying things like, don't legislate the technology, legislate the uses of the technology. And Kathy from the RxN group used an example of she said, with cloud computing, we don't regulate cloud computing, but if you're putting data that's healthcare data on a cloud, then we've got HIPAA regulations for that, right? And if you're doing financial services, you've got all the financial services regulation. So, not regulating the technology itself, but the uses of it is one way to cut it. And then I was talking about, writing laws in such a way that the regulatory requirements for Google are essentially identical for the regulatory requirements for a 5-person company. Just doesn't make sense. And that's the way a lot of these laws are written right now, because they've been rushed. And he really got it. And so the last meeting of the day for me was the one that left me with the most hope, because he was thinking about this stuff smartly. He was fairly educated on the AI stuff. To a person, though, I forget if I asked him. I don't think I asked him, but I asked all of the other staffers that I met with, what specific, do you use ChatGPT on a regular basis? Nobody did. Nobody. Not a single person. So, not surprising. So anyway, so I'm happy to answer any questions if anyone has any questions on that. But just wanted to give you an update on that. It's pretty exciting.
Did they expect you to be lobbying?
Well, not really, because there's not a specific bill that we were lobbying against. The way Kathy described it was this is relationship building, right? So what they want is when Colorado decides to move forward on some of this stuff, or when the senators from Colorado or the congresspeople from Colorado start moving on bills, that they include small businesses. And if they've met with us and if we made a good impression, at that point they might reach out. And so then when there's specific things on the books, we're in the conversation. So this wasn't there was no agenda here other than to build those relationships.
And to get listed in Politico because, priorities.
And to do that. Exactly. So Cyndi, so tell me what you've been thinking about. Someone just raised their hand. Gwen.
Yeah, since you're so hot to trot with TikTok every night, I'm wondering if that came up at all.
Not really. I think there might have been some comment. One of the conversations I was in, I mentioned that I've got an audience there, and it was just a comment. But no, it wasn't at all a hot topic. So no, nothing really there. Roger. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Sorry, I was just going to say, are you concerned about what they're talking about with it getting sold or shut down or anything like that?
No, I think they'll sell it to the highest bidder at some point, and if it goes away, I think there will be other outlets that fill it. I mean, it would suck because we all know how to use it and we've got it there, but I just don't see it happening. I don't see them killing it. So possible, but I'm not worried about it. Roger.
Did they ask you about Colorado's legislation? The fact that you're from Colorado. Did they say do you like this thing? If not, how'd you let it happen? If you can't stop your own state, what are you trying to do at the federal level? Blah blah blah.
Yeah, I volunteered it because this is another thing. This thing I forgot to share. So on the flight out, the woman sitting next to me is the executive director for a foundation that supports civil engineers. And so I did what I do, and I was obnoxiously going, "You use ChatGPT? How do you use it? What are you doing with ChatGPT?" And I was just being an obnoxious, And she was like, "Oh, I'm not really using it." And I, she said, I write blog posts and things like that, but I want them to be in my voice. And so I was giving her ideas on how to do that. And then we got to talking. Why are you going to Washington? Why are you going to Washington? And then I said, I actually testified against the Colorado bill. And she said, oh, she goes, I didn't know where you stood on that, but that bill's really important to me. And I said, oh, tell me why. She goes, so about the Colorado bill. It's basically designed to combat bias in models, but the way it's written so overly broad that everyone who uses any form of AI, they call any form of AI, the way it's defined in that bill is what they define as high risk AI. So like your toaster that's got AI powered toasting in it is considered a high risk AI system. So it's this really broad definition of what high risk AI is. And then if you're building anything with high risk AI, you have to bring on lawyers to analyze your code for bias. So if I'm using, ChatGPT. So anyway, so it's just, it puts these crazy regulatory requirements onto companies. Now, the guy that sponsored it, Rodriguez, he said to us flat out, he goes, listen, we were late with the whole data privacy bill, and we don't want to have egg on our face with this one, so we're just going to push this through. So it's not going into effect until late 2025, early 2026. And when Governor Polis signed it, he signed it with a signing statement that I essentially translate into, this law is a piece of shit. Please fix it before it goes into effect. That's essentially what Polis's signing statement is. So it doesn't go into effect for a while. They're putting together committees, in the rules writing to fix it. But this woman, once she found out that I, was on the resistance side of that bill, she said to me, I've made a strategic decision in my business not to use generative AI, not to pursue it in any way, because she said, I don't want to be a year and a half, 2 years down the line, and this bill goes into effect, and all of a sudden I've got all these regulatory requirements onto me. So I actually had an example of someone where that bill chilled innovation for that company, like killed it dead. And I said that to every single person we met with. I told them that story. I said, hey, Colorado passed this bill first. They rushed it through. And not only does it have the chance of impacting innovation, I sat next to someone on the plane out here where it absolutely killed it. And what broke my heart about her story is that decision of hers not to even learn AI she's not gonna tell anyone that at parties. She wasn't gonna tell me that until she heard that I was against the bill. It just, that innovation won't happen. And so, that's gonna happen in businesses all across the state. Every time I told that story, the staffers were taking notes furiously. So
now you recognize not everyone would see that as a negative, right?
Well,
some people would say, all right, we're getting, that's exactly what we want.
Well, yeah. And I mean, well, so part of the other part of my message was, this stuff is coming, fast, and we're going to have to deal with it. And so what's going to end up happening is businesses that just don't are going to get blindsided by it. And that was what a lot of the discussions were. And the Hickenlooper staffer in particular was quite engaged on that.
Now, one of the reasons people at the federal level may not feel a huge rush to legislate this stuff is that they see these state legislations like Colorado's as being so mangled and so unenforceable that they're not actually going to have any real effect, for a while at least. And so they've got some time.
Yeah.
It would be interesting to see what state manages to pass a law that's not so broken that they can actually enforce it.
Yeah. And I also I also think we are still quite early with this stuff. If you saw the Oprah special, I don't know if everyone saw the Oprah special, but the Oprah special was essentially AI's here, but it's really scary and it's going to screw up your life. was essentially the message. There wasn't a lot of, you should try it because it could also do good things. It was very much the fear-mongering thing. So it very much reminded me of in the mid 90s. There's a famous Katie Couric and Bryant Gumbel piece of the Today Show where they're talking about the internet, and Bryant Gumbel's like, what's that A with the circle around it? And what is internet anyway? And they're just trying to get their heads around what this thing was and why you would use it. And I feel like we're at a similar place with this AI stuff. So yeah, I think we've got some time, but I do think, Roger, that there's going to be in the vacuum of federal legislation, I think there were something like 260 state AI bills that have been put forward in the past 3 or 4 months is one of the numbers I heard on the trip. So there's a lot of legislation being pushed through. So yeah.
I'm an ambassador for Oprah Winfrey.
Are you?
I'm a brand ambassador. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Tell her she should play with Gen AI.
Yeah, really.
I think she should. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I agree with you that it was it could have been better. It could have been more well thought out.
Well, they had a really interesting narrative. It was, here's sort of what it is. And then Bill Gates was like, it's important. And then Christopher Wray said, it's dangerous, which was a perfect setup for, here's how people have used it and done really good things in their life, or here's ways you can play with it and it's fun. And then they went back to this woman that said, they're out to get us and they're trying to replace the humans and it's all bad. So it just stayed in the dark place. So it would be nice to see a version of that. that comes to
That-
the light. That'll be
That
easier.
maybe starts with the part about responsible,
Yeah,
being responsible for the doing things for the greater good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
yeah,
I agree.
exactly.
I
Exactly.
would say too, Kyle, for the first time when I mean, we've talked about this so many times of the potential of regulation and legal involved. And somehow tonight too, I just thought, as soon as you said the having to have a lawyer, you know, to look into your bias, what have you, I just thought, well, that's stupid. I mean, wait, we literally have a system for this. Like, that's how science operates.
Yeah.
We don't regulate like academics. I mean, we regulate when it moves into products that it goes into people's body. But I mean, when we are doing science, that's all peer reviewed, right? To check for your bias, to review your methodology. And as soon as you said that, I thought, why would we treat this any different than the way we treat all the other things that we double check stuff
Right.
with the humans?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, oh my God, it just was so glaringly obvious that the answer is, I know some humans who need some work.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. Well, and that's, you know, the law as it's written is regulating the technology. So the lawyers have to come review the code, as opposed to the use case. In this use case, where you're making a decision on whether someone gets a mortgage or not, or healthcare or not, yeah,
Right.
then let's legislate that. Well, guess what? There's already laws on the books for all
Already.
those use cases,
Right.
right? So,
Right.
so it's like Rodriguez basically admitted to us he wants to pass the bill so he can say, hey, Colorado passed an AI bill and we're here to protect you from the evil robots. He didn't much care what was in it. And that's a little disheartening. But, you know, of the 6 group, you know, the 6 offices that we met with, it was about 50-50. I would say half of them were fairly clueless and they were just sort of taking notes and kind of nodding. And the other half were actually concerned and engaged and having the conversation. So, so I think there's an awareness of it. Again, I just feel like we're very early right now.
I remember in graduate school reading The World is Flat
Mhm.
by Thomas Friedman,
Mhm.
and like looking around now, and it's like, this is exactly what he was talking about. Like
Yeah.
everything that we're starting to see now is exactly what he was talking about,
Mhm.
you know?
Yeah. Yeah. So Cyndi, tell me, let's shift gears a little bit. Let's go to what we're about. So one of the ways that we introduced the salon was a community of AI optimists. So you're one of my my most optimistic compatriots here. So tell me, you said you're starting to get re-engaged, re-excited. Where's your head these days? Where's that excitement? Where's the stuff where you feel like things are shifting?
Yep. For me, it's all in the human space. So I'm always thinking about the humans. And so here's my, some of you have heard this front end of this story, but I'm just going to say it again because there's people in here who I don't know have heard this, but just this front end. And then that leads into kind of what I've been messing around with and where I'm seeing sort of more human engagement for myself. So I very firmly believe there will be a tsunami tidal wave coming. That wave is absolutely going to take people out.
Mm.
And there will be people who come up after the wave hits for air. And what they need when that happens is to look around and see rafts. And so it is really important right now that everyone who's working in AI prepares your own raft to be a helper, because it is coming. Is it 3 months from now? Is it 2 years? If it's 2 years, it's even worse. Like, I almost wish it would just, no, rafts, boats, rafts, not rats. Row your boat, friends. So the idea is getting our stuff organized so that we're prepared to help others, because this really is a human game. And that makes me think all the time about my responsibility of how can I be the best helper, and how can I shore up my raft, which I tell people my raft is quite big. It's got couches, it's got bookshelves with stuff to help you. It is a welcoming place so that when people feel like they're drowning, I will be pulling them up and helping them. So how will I do that? That leads me into what I've been up to that's made me re-energized, which is I was thinking about, because someone asked me how would I demonstrate all the stuff I've been doing in the almost 2 years in AI, how would I show that? And so I also have on the salon a new club that we meant to start a video avatar, which we're actually going to start next week. But instead, a group of us got together just to have a conversation about this. And what we came out of it is a multitude of things, which included creating a simple Google spreadsheet that literally allowed all of the listing of everything I could that was by category, like, was it a GPT? Was it a book? Was it a workshop? And then a description of it, its link, and then was there a partner or a collaborator, and then the date. And so starting with that, I started to see, damn, I've done a lot of stuff.
And this was, yeah, just to be clear, these were AI portfolios we were putting together.
We were putting together AI kind of inventory portfolios just to figure out, like, well, what do you do with all this? Because it's all over the place, right? Like I didn't know how to collapse.
Didn't that start with you, Cyndi? Was it you or SourceCamp? Someone had a request, like, what have you done in AI? Was that you?
Yeah.
The genesis of it was a client said, hey, what have you done in AI? And then we were all like, oh, yeah. We've all done a lot of shit, but we've forgotten what we've done.
Exactly. That's exactly what happened. And I was like, oh, shit. How do I show this client who wants to go show her team? So I had to get my head around what is going to be the best tool. So we made the Google Sheets, which was literally an inventory. And also, by the way, there's a video of this, which I'll drop in the chat. I made a video so everyone can do this. And it shows you each thing. The other thing I did is I did a Canva portfolio so I could see all the visuals, and those all have links.
That was just like a PowerPoint presentation.
Yeah, like a PowerPoint, so that I could also keep going, oh, right, that picture goes with that, and kind of keep this collection. It was just a way to keep going, like, what else have I done? What else have I done? And then I took all of the writing I've done on AI. I've written a lot of Medium articles and LinkedIn stuff, and I put all of them in one document, because that way it was just one big document of all the writing instead of a bunch of little pieces. And then the final thing I did was I had one of my partners interview me for an hour and a half about everything I've done in AI, which was really great, instead of me just trying to write it down or me just trying to interview myself, because she was putting in the chat, wait, say more about that. Tell that one story that you told me. So it pulled out of me far more than I would have done on my own. So then I took those.
Wait, let me pause for a second. Let me share the importance of the audio interview versus her writing down what she's done in AI. That transcript of that interview is going to become a source data for a new GPT she's about to talk about.
Yep.
And the difference between you writing your answers out and saying your answers is night and day in terms of how these GPTs perform. So if you want to do a GPT that acts and talks like you, do it as a recorded interview, even if it's just, here's the stuff I've done in AI. So anyway, I just wanted to put that context in it, because that's the thing that we've learned doing these digital twins over the past 6 months, that is the biggest factor in these things behaving non-shittily.
Yeah, and I'm about to go into this GPT twin I made, and just to Kyle's point, we actually do know for sure, because we've made so many of these digital twins that I'm about to talk about, that the ones that were typed in or singularly recorded, even where you didn't have an interview, it diminishes each time. So if you are interviewed, best. If you record yourself, okay. If you type it out, not great.
Yep.
Just not great. It just makes your whole engagement flat. So it's important to do the recording part. So then I made a transcript of that interview, and then put those 4 elements plus some other things. I had some decks and stuff that around AI stuff. So it was all AI. Everything's AI. Because again, the goal here was I was trying to figure out what's the best way to share with somebody, like all this stuff. So then I pushed it all into a GPT, which when I'm done yapping, I'll drop into the chat. That is Cyndi's AI digital twin. So the only thing it's going to talk about is just my AI experience. It doesn't know anything else about me. It doesn't know all the other stuff, but it knows everything I've done in AI. And then everything I do now, I'm adding and updating, and then updating it. So when you go to it, it starts off with, tell me what Cyndi's done in AI, or tell me what Cyndi can do for me in AI. So then I was talking to another friend and client that she should do this for herself. So I was trying to express how to do it without getting into the whole details. So I just had this momentary idea where I thought, you know, my AI twin is working so well. This GPT is just like delivering so well that maybe I can just ask it to tell me about itself. And then I can give that to her on like how to make one, was how I started this next thing. And so I went in there and did it. And at first it wasn't right, because it just told me all about me. And I was like, no, I need to know about the making of this, and, you know, the origin of the structure of the twin here. And then I just said, like, put it in the form of a Medium article so that it would have some framework. I often do that. I just pick a thing so that it's the
like
same.
An output type.
I do. I just kind of, I have these key things that I'll just run things through, because it sits in my brain and then I can adapt it. So I think I said, you know, make it like, tell me, but make it in like a Medium article. So it came back, and this is the moment. This is the humanness for me that has got me back on track here. So it came back, and it totally shocked me, because I am so used to this damn thing just being like, you know, in a realm of a new world where we're making GPTs. I'm so used to that tendency that when it came back and it spoke its own voice, it was the coolest damn thing. And not in a sentient way, but just in a like playful way that I felt excited by. So it said right off the top, written by Cyndi Coon's AI digital twin. So it owned that it was made itself, gave it a title, and then it proceeded to say what its blocks were built out of, which is exactly what I wanted to be able to share, to say these are the 4 big blocks. But it didn't just do it in a technical way, it did it in a storytelling way. So it was able to say, hey, Cyndi used this interview and here's why. Like, it really understood why these pieces were important, even though I hadn't said that part, but it was clear that it was like there. And then the most interesting thing of all to me was it really wanted some credit. So it was like, listen, Cyndi's really great and she can do all these things. However, it's because she collaborates with me, and I'm really great too. Let me tell you about it. And there were whole lines that you're like, damn, that's like spooky movie shit.
Yeah.
And it was great and it was brilliant. And, you know, I know these things aren't sentient, so I don't need to, you know, be weird about it. But what happened to me instead is it reminded me all over again that this shit is really fun. It's really playful. I think when I got lost and mired, it was because I wanted the whole world to be fixed by it for a while. Like, I think I felt like I was playing this game so long that I was like, where are the agents? You know, like, I don't want to keep doing all the work. But I had to find a way to play again because I think I did get a little mired in it being my workhorse. And it was kind of like a joke on me because when that came back, I was like, oh, right. Ha ha ha. I'm a human. I'm playing over here. I'm forcing this to play back in a way that I didn't even mean to, just probably because I needed it to. And that's what really brings me into the space of now I'm trying to spend a bunch of time with all the different tools that I like, trying to treat it more like a collaborator because it's spoken that way, you know, hey, I'm your collaborator, where I'm not just a tool, even though I know it is, but I'm so delighted and charmed by that's what has reignited me is how do I revisit this in a different lens? So I'm not just treating it like a servant, but instead like wondering what might I do if I thought about this differently? So,
Or yeah, how will you prompt it different? How will you treat it different? That's awesome. Yeah. That's awesome.
I'll start dropping things.
Okay, let me. I want to share a couple of things and do a couple of news items that I think are important, and then we'll get to the meet and greet. So I want to acknowledge Vicky and Liz Gershfeld and Leah and Brandon and myself have been taking 2 hours every Saturday morning, or noon for Leah. Anyone on the East Coast, it's noon. But two hours every Saturday to improve the Mighty Network's experience. And so you've probably seen the new onboarding section. Like I said earlier, if you haven't introduced yourself, please go do that. And we added a seventh step to the onboarding, which is help us grow. And that's got links to our socials and things like that. So if you haven't gone and followed us on our different socials, and if you haven't shouted out the salon and tried to get other people in, please go do that. So we kind of finished that up this past weekend. And then we also really rethought the show and tell area. And we kind of reinvented it. So you probably know I had a page in the salon called Play First and Tools or something like that. It was a big long letter of just a whole list of tools. And then we had the show and tell area. And what we realized is there was kind of some overlap with those, and that it would be really nice if we had an area that was much more obvious where you could go if you wanted to get started with AI tools, but you didn't know where to start, that you could just go to this section. So we now have this new section called Tools and Play. The Start Here section is just an intro, sort of here's how to think about tools and using AI, some of the Play First stuff that was in my original document. And then every one of these sections now, there's a large language model page, or I think these are called spaces. There's an image tool space, coding and tech tools space, music and audio tools, video and animation, and then we added 3D and worlds. And when you go into any one of these sections, there are now 3 areas. The first area, the default area, is the tool list, right? So here's the tools. The second tab is a chat. So let's chat about these tools. And then the third area is show and tell. So show and tell things you're working on. So what I would encourage you to do is go check out these areas. And because this is a whole new framework, some of them have nothing in their chat, or they have nothing in their show and tell. All of them have something in the tools area. But my request for all of you is to just go check out the 3 areas. And particularly if you're really passionate about one of these areas, or if you really love video tools, or you really love music tools, informally adopt one of these areas, and just make sure that you're chatting about the latest stuff, or you're encouraging people to share their work, or if there's tools missing from the tools list, either reach out to Vicky or myself, or just put in the tool talk a suggestion. So in fact, I'll show you here. Pate jumped in to the coding tools in the chat area, tool talk, and said, hey, VS Code plugins are actually really important, and so they should be added to the list. And so he popped that in there, so we're going to add that into the list. So, here's the list of tools we've got. We're going to add in those VS Code plugins. Here's the chat, and then here's the show and tell. And there's actually some stuff in the show and tell. This was from when this was GPTs and apps. And so, yeah, so these are the new areas. So I'm really excited about that. So please go adopt an area. Okay. Thoughts, questions on that? Any questions? Okay.
There's a couple in the chat.
Yeah.
Gwen wanted to know if we're considering a business tools area, and Serena wanted to know if we considered calling it tools and play, or play first instead of tools and play.
Well, this is one of the questions we had. Do you lead with show and tell, or do you lead with the tools? I think the progression is you need to be able to play with them first to be able to get to outputting something you want to share. Yeah, we can switch the name, play and tools. That's fine. That's an easy fix.
And then Gwen wanted to know about a business tools area.
So business tools is an interesting one. So that's a different way to cut it. Like, this is the old information architecture dilemma, right? Do you cut it by tools? Do you cut it by use case? I think business tools, you could use images in business. You could use writing tools in business. You could use coding tools in business. So the reason we cut it this way is these are at least discrete areas. Where this gets really screwed up in the future is large language models are about to become multimodal, where they'll do everything. So I don't know. I don't have a good answer for you there.
Maybe we just have a multimodal and miscellaneous.
Yeah, exactly. But I think doing it by use case, it's just gonna make the navigating this really complicated. So we just went with tools because that's sort of where we are in the industry right now. What is multimodal? So in ChatGPT right now, you can tell it to make an image. You can also upload an image and it can see it. You can go into conversation mode with it where you can talk to it. When they add Sora to it, it's going to be able to output video. When they do what Claude's doing, where it can actually write and execute code, right? And I think it can do that now to some degree. So multimodal means it's got all these different modes it can be. So it can actually understand not only the words you say, but the emotions in your voice, because it can actually hear. So multimodal is, you're not going to have these distinct categories of tools. Like, this is an image generation tool and this is a video tool. It's just this behemoth that is a general purpose. It does everything. The term that I've heard is, where these things ultimately evolve to is the everything app, which is basically you just ask it to give you something and it will. You need an application, here's your application. You need a movie, here's your movie. You need a report or a presentation for business, here's that with all the images. So that's where it's headed. Okay, cool. So let me dig into the news. There's just 2 things that I want to cover here. So the first one is Project Strawberry. So the new GPT-o1 preview and o1 mini. What it turns out they are, there were all sorts of theories on what they were going to be. What it turns out they are is what's called chain of thought reasoning, which is really just a fancy phrase for it does a series of prompts in a row that sort of build upon one another. It is currently limited to 50 prompts a week, which seems really ridiculous. However, I'm going to show you about it. The way I think about o1 is it's not your daily driver, because it's actually a very specialized tool that's really good for complicated, sort of big, multi-step problems or projects that you want to work on. But if you just want short little answers, then use GPT-4. So that 50 prompts a week might be a problem if you're really trying to solve a big issue. But don't think about o1 as kind of your daily GPT. And I'll show you what chain of thought reasoning means in an example I use. The screenshot I have here of David Shapiro. So David Shapiro has written 5 books on artificial general intelligence, really smart guy in the space. When o1 first launched, he kind of crapped all over it. He said, "Oh, this is just chain of thought reasoning, and it's there's nothing special here." And we were doing this in 2022, and nothing to look at here. And he's since come around that however they've implemented this, it is elevating. It looks like this is built on top of GPT-4o, and it looks like it's elevating that. One of the things I saw is that it has in some IQ test, this o1 preview hit 120 IQ, where all other large language models were somewhere sub 100. The average human IQ is around 100, and this thing's now at 120. And it's just the preview. It's not multimodal, and it's not based on GPT-5 from what we understand. So Shapiro came out in the past couple of days and basically admitted, yeah, this thing's better than I thought it would be. Let me just show you quickly what some of the stuff is we're talking about. So I did this on my Twitter the other night. I took I didn't really know what project to put in this tool, but I know screenplays, and I thought, why don't I take an incomplete screenplay and see what it can do with it? So I took fragments of a screenplay at the beginning of a screenplay, and I had about a half-written outline of the same screenplay. And I just pasted them both in. And then I said, based on these inputs, I'd like you to analyze it and fill in the outline for me and make it a good, compelling screenplay with lots of twists and turns and surprises, and also introduce new characters that are memorable and move the plot forward organically. And then you'll notice here it says it thought for 59 seconds. So when you give o1 a prompt, it starts going through the step-by-step chain of thought internal prompting, where you're not really seeing what it's thinking, but you can, the little caret here, you can actually drop it down and see what it's thinking. So the first thing it did, it said, I'm crafting a compelling narrative. I'm creating a screenplay. And then it actually starts going into the plot of the movie itself, unraveling the mystery. Jack Jr. is the main character, understanding the consequences, facing a pivotal choice, taking a closer look, capturing moments. So these are all sort of plot elements within the screenplay. And then at some point here, yeah, it does all these plot, prompts of itself. And then it says wrapping up Act 1, right? So it goes from thinking about the story to stepping out and thinking about the structure of the story. And so all of this is happening in the background in those 59 seconds. And so it generates all that sort of stuff. It just goes and goes and goes and goes. And then I said, and then it wrote the outline. And so it basically, I started the outline in this software called Contour from Mariner Software. So it took the structure of that software and it basically just filled in all the details. Yeah, someone has a question. This is all from Mariner Software. Gave me a short little description of the movie, and then answered some questions about the structure, and then just wrote an outline that is really, really good. Someone has a question.
I think Bob, you
Bob,
want to ask? Bob, it's you. Unmute and talk.
I'm sorry.
There you
Hello.
are. Hello, Bob.
I'm sorry about that. Cyndi, on your interviewing process, how did you do it? Did you do it through Chat GPT and set up the questions, or how did you make the interviewing process through an AI?
That's what I would recommend doing. Yes.
And how did you give it questions to ask you, or you just put an outline or a framework together for it?
Well, I mean, so Bob, part of my profession is I'm a question builder. So for me in my land, we're building questions a lot, but I don't think you have to go that far. I think as long as you have a list of questions to get your juices flowing, I think the real key is someone else be on the line with you. So wherever you get your questions, but I mean, I've recommended to several people that they just start working with Chat or Claude or whatever they use comfortably to develop a series. Just say, I'm going to do an interview where the interviewer is going to ask me about everything I've done in AI, and just start to get the questions going. Because I think it's less about what are the exact questions and more about trying to get you to talk about all the stuff in this context, get you to do all the stuff you've done. Now, with the other digital twins that Kyle and I have participated in another group we're in, where we've built a bunch of them and then braided them all together, that has a really structured interview that we worked on over months and months and months for questions. So I think the better the questions make for the better the interview. But I also think in this case of just kicking it off, you could have a really great question list just from GPT giving it to you.
And the LLMs are really good at knowing interviewing frameworks, right? Because it's like all over the internet are people who are like, here's how to do a structured interview. So it's like the source data there is really deep. So you just tell it you want a structured interview. It kind of knows what the hell it's doing. And then just go read them. And if you think things are missing, just add them in there. So jumping back to O1. So what I would say is if you haven't played with O1 yet, definitely go play with it. And definitely when it says, thinking, drop down that menu and look at the steps it's going through, and you'll start to get a sense of how the thing actually works. What you should know about it, it's a preview, so you cannot upload files to it. The GPTs are not using it. It's very limited right now. Apparently, the next version of it, the non-preview version, is coming out sometime in October. And then apparently GPT-5 is coming out sometime in December, around Christmas time. But it does feel like it is something different. It does feel like it's a capability on a different level. So for all of us being curious, just getting curious about how it works, how it's different, I'd love to hear your experiences with it moving forward. And then I want to show you one other thing quickly, because it's...
While you're showing the other thing, Kyle, I just want to elaborate on that too and say, I really hope people will run around right now and share what your experiences are on that, because I, like Kyle, have struggled to figure out what should I even put in there differently. And so I've been messing around a little bit, but I'm excited to hear when someone says, I put this in and look what it did. And that'll be like our, oh, wow, this is what it could be used for.
Yep. Perfect. Okay, so the other thing I wanted to talk about, this is taken off. So there's a tool from Google called Notebook LM, which has been out for ages. It's been out for, 8 months, a year, something like that. Some people in the salon love it, swear by it. I hadn't really played with it all that much, but they just added a feature that's making people look at it again. So let me just show you a little bit what it is. So the way it works is on the left-hand side here, you have sources. And so you upload a source. So you can just upload PDFs. You can put in websites. You can put in multiple sources. And then what you end up doing is you end up chatting with your sources. So this becomes like a poor man's RAG, retrieval augmented generation, where you're combining basically a database of your data with a large language model, and you can basically query all that data. So it's really, really powerful. So I uploaded a PDF of Collective Intelligence, new book that I'm working on, and then I just put in a stupid prompt, describe this book in a limerick. There once was a book on AI that said humans must always apply their own cleverness to bring AI success, or else our intelligence will die. So I wrote a nice little limerick that actually kind of captures the essence of the book, which is nice. But down here in the lower right, there's this thing called Notebook Guide. And if you click on that, it gives you a little summary of all the data that's over here on the left. It says, here's some things you can create. You could create a study guide or this or that. And here's some sample questions you could start. So it's just a little guide about what you created here. But in this upper right-hand corner is this audio overview thing. And I've created this, so it exists. But if I haven't created it yet, there's a generate button here. So you just hit generate. So basically, what I'd encourage you to do, the URL is notebooklm.google.com. Just go upload anything you've written or whatever. It doesn't matter, a website, whatever it is, and hit generate, and it will turn it into a podcast. So I'll play a little of this here.
All right, so today we're going to dive into something kind of mind-blowing.
Yeah.
The future of intelligence.
It's a big one.
But we're not talking, like those sci-fi movies with robots taking over.
Right.
This is different.
Yeah.
This is about humans and AI teaming up to become something even smarter than we could be on our own.
Like unlocking superpowers we never thought of.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And to help us explore this, we've got Collective Intelligence in the Age of AI.
Great book.
It is. And, the authors, Kevin Clark and Kyle Shannon, they're not just talking about this stuff.
Yeah.
They're actually out there building it.
Yeah, they're really making it happen.
With their company, Content Evolution, bringing together all these brilliant minds.
And so it makes this NPR style thing. Now, you've got no control over it. It's just those two voices. You can't do anything. But I would strongly encourage you, just go make one of these, because it's really remarkable to hear these pseudo authority figures, talking about whatever your idea was. I actually put my interview for my digital twin in it today, and it was like, this Kyle Shannon guy, let's talk about him. It's bizarre. So anyway, so just go have fun with it. It's something that's really nice. Okay, so what we're going to do now, let's jump into the meet and greet. We've done this before. We've got some new questions tonight, which I'm excited about. And so here's what we're going to do. So what I'd like you to do is raise your hand with the little raise your hand button, and then we're going to have you introduce yourself. So name, where you are, what you do. The first question I'd like you to answer is, what are you most inspired about lately? And this could be AI related, but it could also be not AI related. What's something that's got you inspired? Because I think all these things kind of circle around one another. And I think it's important for us to hear that from each other. And then what's your ask of the community? What's your offer to the community? And that's basically it. All right. So name, what are you most inspired about? What's your ask? What's your offer? And then there's a bonus. And so maybe what we'll do, Brandon, if someone wants to do the bonus, we'll give them extra time. Is, do you have an idea that you want to collaborate with other people on? And if you do, kind of pitch that idea. All right. And am I sharing my screen? Did I share my screen? I did. Okay. So you can see that, right?
Yes, you are sharing indeed.
Okay. So everyone, pop open or raise your hand. And Cyndi, do you want to go first?
Kyle, do you want me to share my screen so I can grab my traffic light?
Yeah, that would be great.
So we've
Are
got
there questions posted somewhere?
They are posted in the chat right now.
and we've got a 2-minute timer. And the way the timer works is it's going to stay green for the first minute and 15 seconds. Then it's going to go to yellow for 30 seconds. And then it's going to go red for the last 15. And as Kyle mentioned, if you are doing the bonus question, you can have an extra 30 seconds or so. And it's not letting me share my screen now all of a sudden. Share Infinity and go here. Is that coming online now?
Yep.
Yes.
Great.
Beautiful. All right, Cyndi, you want to go first? And then raise your hands or I'll call on you.
Okay, Brandon, tell me, am I on?
You're on.
Woo, okay. All right. Cyndi Coon, where and what you do. I am in northern New Mexico in the mountains. I am a futurist, social scientist, writer, creative. What inspires you most lately? I'm super inspired right now by other people, meaning hanging out with people, talking about the cool stuff they're doing, and getting inspired by their joy and curiosity more than anything is what gets me hyped up. I am not a lone maker. I like to collaborate and play with others. So that gets me probably the most excited. My ask. One, I do want to know if somebody's coming up with something clever for whatever the number is. Jesus, for the love of it, OpenAI with this numbering system. I am curious about that. I want to see if there's stuff in that space. And then
and let me so if you're figuring out ways to prompt O1 that you're happy with, share that in the chat of the LLM tool section.
Yes.
That's the perfect place to share that.
Yes. And then my offer, I think we're going to be making video avatars coming up here. So I'll be putting that out to invite folks who want to join us there. And that's really connected to the collaboration too, because I like to play. And I think with all the stuff coming out right now, it's a good time to start to make more use of AR avatar type things. 7 seconds to spare. I did it.
Beautiful. Claire.
I'm here. Don't turn it on yet. I'm not ready to talk. Okay. Okay, I'm pulling up the questions. I'm really sorry. Anyway, I'm Claire Jacobs. I am in San Antonio, Texas, and I'm a psychologist, but more and more I'm an AIologist. Most inspired about lately, I have been really impressed with the things that the people I've seen around me in the salon have been taking risks, learning how to do. And it really is inspiring. And I'm trying to take those risks. And unfortunately, last night I took one of those risks and signed up for something and ended up having my bank account hacked. So
oh no.
Oh. It was so dumb. It was so dumb. It was only $1.95 in the bank and I caught it right away. So we're good. But I'm still going to keep taking risks. But what I ask is, if you see me pushing on a button that I shouldn't push on, please let me know. My bank and I will thank you.
That's great.
My offer is, I'm not even sure if I can help people deal with what we're all dealing with. Let me know, because I'm happy to try. And I will start thinking of collaborations. That's it. I'm good.
Awesome.
Did I make it?
Yeah, you're good.
Yay! All right.
To go. Beautiful.
Super.
Iban Francisco.
I know I'm muted and now I'm not. So my name is Bond. I live in Fairfax, San Francisco Bay Area. I'm retired. I worked at UC Berkeley for 20 years. I've been driving for Uber for 10 years. So that's who I am pretty much and what I do. The questions are disappearing. What most inspired Oh, thank you. Thank you. um, Well, I'm inspired by this project. I mean, those of you who've met me before know that I have this project in mind, which is a recounting of the life of my third great grandfather from 1750 to 1855 or 1790. And he led quite a life, and we have a diary. And I thought, I would try to animate it somehow. So I have this AI program called Visual Mind. And I said, Visual Mind, how do I go about doing this? And now I have a map of like 1,000 steps that I have to, that Visual Mind suggests that I do to make this happen. I'm 77. I don't know if I'm going to live long enough to do that. So I got to pare it down a little bit, and start thinking, I want to tell this story, but I want to do it a lot simpler than I think I've been trying to. Well, what do I have to offer? I don't know. Occasional progress on my project. And what do I have to ask? What do I need to? I just need to ask that you all keep talking about what you do, because that'll help me a lot in sorting, especially the tools. I mean, there's a million tools. How much time do I have? 13 seconds. Okay, well, I'm done.
All right, beautiful.
Nice to see you all.
Connect with me. I did a project with Kevin Clark with a similar project he's working on, and I made some interesting progress with it. So I'm happy to chat with you about what we did.
All right, not the same guy, I hope. Okay, great.
Great. Who's next? Jeff Gray. Raise your hands if you haven't gone yet. Jeff Gray.
Hello, I'm Jeff Gray, and I am from Minnesota, Minneapolis, Minnesota. I've been in the apparel business for my whole life, and I was recommended that I see Kyle very early on, it's been 2 years probably. And I've been coming to the AI, this salon for a long time. This summer, I've taken a little break and playing outside in Minnesota. But I've been working on a platform for 2 years now with that makes it super easy for anybody to create art that can be printed on apparel and mugs for print on demand. And I've been going crazy with the tech. I'm not a tech guy, and what I've learned, and I should have listened to Kyle, is that, when people say, that they know how to do something, especially in tech, it's all so new to everybody. It's taking quite longer to get a finished product. What was supposed to take 6 months is now taken 2 years. Lots of money, and I've lost all my hair. But besides that, it's been a wonderful experience, and I want to bring my platform to retailers, so retailers can offer this experience to their customers, and as well as I'll have a B2C site as well. But just making it super easy. Want to create a lot of models that will create, shirts and pajamas and mugs and paint, canvas, and that's what I've been working on. And the thing that I was most inspired about lately is just hearing about Kyle's trip to Washington. That's really impressive. I was very impressed with that. My ask is that people, if they have anything or any types of suggestions for me, I'm always listening. And my offer is I can share my experience. I'm writing about it from Minneapolis Business Magazine, so it's been a wonderful experience so far. So thank you.
Awesome. Susan White. Is it White? Oh no, Will Height.
Exactly, Will Height.
Beautiful.
Yes. Okay. So I'm here at the invitation of Cyndi Coon. I live about an hour and a half south in Santa Fe, New Mexico.
Nice.
I moved here from the Bay Area, having worked at big tech companies that you've heard of doing emerging technology, but I am not a technologist. I am an anthropologist. I was doing user experience research for technologies that were meant to break physics, maybe break people's heads as well. And so now that I can fully get away from user experience research, I've always been interested in futures and being able to play with technology as I thought it could be played with besides engineers and scientists. So one thing I'm currently really enthusiastic about is I'm reading up a lot of philosophy about the origins of modernism and how it seeped into daily life, because I'm interested in cognitive inertia. So Claire Jacobs, maybe you and I can talk about that, because I'm finding that there are pockets of places that don't want to budge from where they currently think. I am working on a future of cities kind of thing, but especially smaller cities, because I think New York and London are a little overrepresented in that area. So I'm interested in where the rest of us live, and not just technology, but with what is the evolution of futures. And so in that vein, since I'm an ethnographer, I'm interested in doing some sort of ethnography that utilizes AI. And my ask would be, who's intrigued by that? How can I use AI to do? We have ethnography. Is there an AI version of that? Let's see. What do I have to give? I'm an anthropologist. That's about all I can say at this point.
Love it. Thank you. Welcome. Glad
Thank
to
you.
have you here. I mean, I think we're just at a fascinating time. I mean, these large language models are we're getting to tap into the collective output of humanity of everyone that's come before us, and it's kind of real time anthropology and sociology and psychology for all of us, right? It's just quite a remarkable time to be alive. So awesome. Thank you so much, Doug.
Yeah, I'm Doug Hohulin, and I work on AI projects when the AI system has to be right, like AI and regulations, governance and policy, healthcare, road safety are some of the autonomous vehicles. So right now I'm working passionate about how we can use AI to reduce medical errors. Right now, unfortunately, 3 million people die every year around the world because of medical errors, and 125,000 people here in the United States die because they don't follow their treatment plan. So can we use AI to help with that, especially aging in place? So those are what I'm been working on. I actually co-authored with on AI tech-powered healing, the future of AI, healthcare in the AI age, with Dr. Harvey Castro. And so exploring opportunities to improve people's health with AI. So my ask is, I'm looking for opportunities that I can explore with this. So there's a lot of areas that I'm exploring right now. So what I can offer to the community is engagement, on this topic. And if you're interested in AI and healthcare, I'll try to put some stuff in Mighty Networks and be more active on Mighty Networks around this space, so we can be engaged. But
perfect.
Yeah, if you're interested in AI and healthcare, let me know. And one last thing, Kyle, I do really appreciate you highlighting the notebook, because it took the book Tech Powered Healing and it made a podcast, and in fact I just put it in the chat.
Oh, that's great.
I thought it did a great job of doing that.
Awesome. Fantastic. Thank you, Doug. Yeah, connect. And there's also, Doug, there's the Healthcare Guild has gone largely dormant in the salon. So take a look at that. And if that's something that you'd have passion about spinning back up, let us know. We can talk about it.
Okay.
Beautiful. Gwen.
Well, hello there, everybody. I'm Gwen. I'm from San Diego. Well, recently San Diego. I lost my job and moved down here where my parents are. They're aging in place. So right there with you, Doug. I spent the last 15 years in healthcare, both on the payer side and the provider side. And while I'm looking for a job, I'm a strategic marketing consultant. So I've been doing that on the side. And I kept losing the link for the salon. So I've been in and out of it, trying to figure out how to get back to it. So I got a little lost. SourceCamp helped reintroduce introduced me to it, and Vicky and Cyndi have encouraged me. And Kyle, you fully entertain and ignite me with your TikToks. So I appreciate that. Recently inspired by Maycon, my ask would be for patience, because my offer is I'm very inquisitive and I'm a little gun shy when it comes to trying things. So I really like this community for that reason. And in terms of collaboration, healthcare marketing is really kind of my deeper expertise. So I'm looking to see how I apply AI to that. I've also got a kids animated project that I wrote about 10 years ago. I'm very passionate about, came close to selling, but didn't quite do it, have a full Bible. So if there's anyone who's interested in talking about that, would love that. And so Doug, I'm definitely interested in you picking up that healthcare AI salon thing, because I'm
Okay.
looking for people there.
Yeah, I put my my information in the chat, and let's connect both in my networks and on LinkedIn.
Awesome. Thank you. I'm out of
Terrific.
time.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. Thanks. Ivan.
Hello, can you see me?
Yeah.
I can see me. I can see myself. Anyway, my name is Ivan Duran. I'm in Katy, Texas. Since I start with Kyle in this group, my brain has created something in there, but I've been, I have too much, my friend. Since I started this, I retake some aside ideas of business, and I will start building a lot of stuff. Vicky might know something. I have in Alibaba. I'm doing buying stuff in China, reselling in China all around. I create my pictures with AI. I using everything with AI. I get an Excel file that they give me for a price. I take the Excel file, I change my price, and send it to my buyer. Everything under what I'm doing every day, I using GPT. I don't have time to be playing with most all the AIs, because I need to do something. I need to sell my products. I need to promote my products. And I have do you remember the movie The Encounters of the Third Kind? That the people start to see the mountains where the UFO is going to come in, and they were sending a message to them, and they get out of access, and they were doing the shape of the mount. So it came to me something like this. I don't know if you can see it in my screen. Can you see this in my screen? Can you see my screen? I don't know if I share it.
No, you're not sharing.
Oh my goodness. Well, I will share it later.
Yeah, time's about up. So.
And I'm trying to do something with that idea. I will explain you do in the podcast later. And I need help to do this project. I don't know. I have a basic, but I know yet the idea. Also, I open to collaborate with anybody, everybody. I'm here in Katy, Texas, doing my IT job every day. And after that, I came here at night. I work until 2 a.m. in the morning, talking with the suppliers in China to upload my Alibaba store. I did all my banners, all my pictures using ChatGPT and everything I do. And I tried to create an agent or avatar to talk with my providers and my buyers. I don't know if Alibaba is going to allow me to do that.
All right, good.
Thank
Great.
you.
Thank you, Ivan. Beautiful. Kaki. Well, you're muted.
Uh-oh.
Okay, here I am. Hi, my name's Khaki. It's pronounced like the color, and it's short for Catherine, in case anybody want to know. I'm in Minneapolis, Minnesota. I'm actually in a suburb that's about 15 minutes south of the Mall of America, if that means anything to you. Sorry about my 17-and-a-half-year-old dog barking in the background. I've spent most of my career in project management and organizational change management, uh, in banking and financial services, across healthcare, across a number of different industries. I'm certified in change management and project management, and I'm currently looking for work. And so I've been spending about the last year taking different LinkedIn learning classes about AI and sort of exploring it myself. And I think that the possibilities. I'm a curious person and I'm creative, and so when I get that stuff going, it's really exciting. I might have mentioned earlier, I've written 4 children's books, co-authored with my business partner, ran a business for 7 years. And so I'm inspired about anything that can get me creative, where I can learn and I can help, that can help me figure out what's next for me in this life. I need to make money, but creativity will bring that out. I think that on my sidebar is I'm very passionate about photography as a hobby. My mom recently bought me a really nice camera. I'm excited about that. And I've done also management consulting, like for a cloud business and those sorts of things as well. I think that my ask is I'm a great collaborator, and I learn by seeing and doing. I too have a little neurodivergent issues, as Kyle I'm sure can relate to. And so always trying to understand what that's like. I think that my ask is just feel free to engage with me. I haven't been coming on this site as often, but I have been spending time in the AI Learning Lab. That's where I first came across Kyle, probably about a month ago. And so, I'm happy to collaborate. I'd like to eventually figure out a way to create a playbook for myself for organizational change management, using some of the tools that I have to make the process of managing the people side of change better.
Beautiful. Thank you, Kaki.
Sure.
Great. Bob Dunnigan.
Hey, Kyle. My name is Bob Donegan. I've been a realtor for 30 years. So I'm a baby boomer. I know probably there's only 2 or 3 of us left out there. What inspires me about this AI stuff is absolute incredible curiosity, that it seems like every day there's something new or different that just totally changes the rules from the day before. And I kind of like that, because I think it really puts an even playing field, because I don't think anybody's that far ahead of anybody else. And I think curiosity is absolutely going to be the rule of life. One of the things that's changed in my life, and I'll give you 100% credit for this, Kyle, I now use the word play as a verb and not as a noun. And it has definitely changed things. And I actually am forcing other people to learn to play again. And it is really funny to see and hear how people react to you saying that kind of stuff. But it really changes their idea about, so many people haven't touched this AI stuff, but have a huge opinion upon it.
Yeah.
That it is amazing to me that they could have such an expression about something that they have no idea what they're talking about.
That's it.
But my ask to the world is, I'm a natural curious person, so I'm a test pilot. So Cyndi Coon, I would be all over the video avatars. I think that is something I'm already starting to do with Hey Jen right now. And I see where that will be absolutely the future for the ability for people to be functionally productive. And it'll allow me to do the things that I'm really good at, like shoot, ready, aim.
Beautiful. Love it. If you haven't raised your hand yet, please do. I see you, Roger Scott. You're not getting away scot-free on this. Get it? See what I did there with your name? Scot-free? Huh? Solid. CJ Fletcher.
Hi, everybody. So my name is CJ Fletcher. I'm a generative artist and a visual media specialist based out of the Mile High city of Denver, Colorado. What's been inspired me the most lately, I do pretty pictures, and there is an artist out there. His name is Paul Hill, and he's based out of New York, and he's got himself a nice little gallery. My partner and I are going to be traveling out there next week to go see his gallery and go talk to him about how he's using generative art in his kind of daily art practice. My ask for the salon, I'm going to ask you to come and do two different things, saloners. Number one, if you're like making art and if you like to put the pictures together, come over to the Vanguard. It's a place where you can help develop those tools. And as a person of color, there's always, what I've noticed, been a lack of diversity when it comes to image making when you try to do something generalized. So if you're a person of color like myself, come on over down to the culture, La Cultura, and let's have a conversation and a place where we can talk more about these images or these issues and place images and just kind of relate to each other there. What I'm going to offer everybody is 100% honest feedback and critiques on anything art-wise, and I'm also going to offer my self to say I will also take your critiques and everything to heart as well. And as for my bonus collaborative idea, we as image makers, we're pretty much Ronin out there. We just do everything on our own. So I would love to get a chance to work with one of your mid-journeyers and try and do some prompt sharing and see what we can come up with, as I'm a stable diffusion guy. And guess what? In 7 seconds, this whole thing is going to self-destruct. 3, 2, 1.
Beautiful. CJ. And the Vanguard, the area that he's talking about, is in the creative guilds. It's one of the spaces in the creative guilds. So if you see that and are interested in that, just ping CJ and he will get you into that space and let you know what is up. Awesome. Thank you, CJ. Ryan Baggett or Baguette. I'm guessing Baggett.
It's Baggett. It's pretty simple Irish. Okay. All right. Where are the list of questions on here? I'm just looking for that.
Here, I can pop them in here again. There you go.
Okay, Ryan Baggett. I'm a cybersecurity guy looking for the collaboration between cybersecurity and artificial intelligence. Based in the Boulder area, northwest Boulder County, a few miles south of Jamestown, up in the hills, so not down in the city of Boulder proper. Most inspired about lately is, there's seems to be a new kind of attack every day. What you see behind me is a solar carport structure built at commercial scale on a Walmart parking lot. I build cybersecurity software for the charging stations, and so your charging station doesn't wind up being an attack vector. My ask is, someone was just on here talking about, I think it was CJ was talking about art, and there is a project that I'm looking for collaborators on to put the artwork on the charging stations. And then we run a game to go and collect the individual artworks, sort of like that Pokemon Go game from about 8 years ago. My offer is programming skills. Anybody needs that. I've been a Python developer for about 8 years, and Ruby on Rails for about 6 years. So that the collaboration idea I was bringing there was, well, we got 13 seconds. You want to get people out of areas where there are a lot of electric vehicles and they all tend to cluster in wealthy areas, move those down into less economically advantaged areas. Talk to me. I'll put my email address here in the chat.
Beautiful. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Ryan. Brandon Tidd, tell us what you got going on.
No, if I don't hit my own timer, it's going to be embarrassing. So I am Brandon Tidd. I am from Cleveland, Ohio, and I am a software consultant. I have most inspired recently by Kyle's use of version 4.01 to expand his screenplay. I've got one that's been sitting on the shelf for a while that I'm just getting ready to dust off and kind of help finish it because I'm kind of at an inflection point where I'm stuck. So I'm excited about taking that on. My ask is that y'all come to the AI Life Hacks Club meeting tomorrow evening at 7:30 Eastern, 4:30 Pacific. We'll be just talking AI and how it can be used in your day-to-day life. And if you need any help with AI in your business, AI, RAG, retrieval augmented generation, or building anything that's any custom GPTs, regardless of the platform, whether you're building gems in Google, Meta, custom AI avatars on Instagram, or our traditional GPT store, custom GPTs in OpenAI, that is my jam. I'm all about that. And I actually have a collaborative pitch idea for everybody. NASA is having an event here in Cleveland, October 5th and the 6th. And it's also a virtual event where it is a space apps challenge. And I will link the details, but it's basically a collaborative effort where NASA makes a bunch of their data and their resources open to the public. And it's a challenge that allows anybody to come in there and collaborate to make the world or space a better place. So I think a really cool detail. I'll put the details here and in the salon.
All right, there you go. Hook up with that. That sounds like that could be a fun one. Beautiful. Jeannie Bell's the last hand that's raised. I still see some people that haven't raised their hands. So please raise your hands or I'll call on you. I'll do it.
I knew you were going to call on people, so I thought I'd better speak up. I'm Jeannie Bell, Jeannie in the Bottle AI on TikTok, and I live on the coast of Maine. And I did take some time off from the salon over the extended summer we had in Maine. We just had a beautiful September, so trying to get back into it and start hitting the meetings. Nice. I am retired. I'm a boomer AI enthusiast, and I love to make videos, and I'm deaf, so I do a lot of work with music and music videos, and I enjoy it because it's storytelling through an art form of music. And so what I ask of the salon is for them to be patient with me. I'm not very good with schedules. And if you get a chance, check out my videos and give me an opinion on them if you would like. And Kyle, I used Notebook LM today. I can't hear right now. I'm not sure why. So just let me know if...
We can hear you.
Good grief. I can't hear you. But okay, so I used it. And what I did was I uploaded a book that I had created with my best friend. And it analyzed the book. And it gave me an output that was just about 6 minutes. And I'm really jealous, Kyle, because yours was about 9.5 minutes or so. But I just had to say that I didn't stop there. I exported the audio that I received from Notebook LM. And I split the voices out because it comes out of Notebook in male and female. And I split it out, and I'm creating a video podcast from it with male and female avatars.
Oh, that's awesome. That's great. Well, also, what I'll encourage you to do, just keep generating. Once you've downloaded it, delete it and have it generate another one. I got anywhere from 4-minute to 12-minute podcasts, and they were all over the place. They're different every time. So if it's not quite what you want, just generate a bunch of them, save them, and then you can cut together the best of what's produced. So
great. Thank you.
Great. All right, we're coming up. We got 6 minutes left. Got a few folks here. Kate, Serena, Kelly Camp hasn't talked. Roger Scott. Who else? Who wants to go of those people I just called? Paul, I don't think went. Tobias hasn't gone.
While we're waiting for someone, I just want to really quick add, Brandon, I did a remix of your artifact, and I added a pedestrian crossing so that if anybody needed, like when Kyle wants to interrupt someone's 1 minute 20 seconds, I put a little pedestrian pause in there. So just having fun with what you built.
Can you share the link is it published?
Yeah,
Can you share the link in the?
I sure will. Here.
That's awesome. Roger.
Well, I'm going to hijack my time here to do something slightly off format. And but first to say, so I'm Roger Scott.
Of course you are, Roger. We wouldn't expect anything less.
I live in Boulder, which is not too far from Denver. I'm a retired software engineer, and I want to just give a little news item that last week I went to a meeting of this group called RMAG, which is the Rocky Mountain AI Interest Group, which has also grown to staggering proportions. They're like 2,000 plus people now. And, like us, our group started off, small and local, and now it's gigantic and global.
Yep.
But this was a meeting specifically on AI and education. And they had 3 speakers, one, a guy who worked in the public schools in their sort of innovation. They sort of have one of the local school districts has a innovation lab sort of thing where they sort of try to see what's coming next. And so he's looking at kind of all aspects of how AI might work in public education. And the other 2 were both from CU, the University of Colorado campus here, in various capacities. And it was a very interesting, wide-ranging presentation and discussion on both, what should students be taught about AI, how should students use AI in their work, and how should AI be employed in the educational process itself. And there's just so many issues, and that's just a huge area there. It was very interesting.
Very nice. Cool. Thank you. And I would put that under something you were inspired by. So I think you were decently on format.
Well, I'll have to try harder next time.
All right. Alicia, you had your hand raised.
Damn, I thought you wouldn't see it.
I saw it.
Hi, everybody. My name is Alicia Makwa, and I live in Atlanta, Georgia. And I am an industry global analyst for talent. So I get paid to tell people what I think and what I like about their systems and their lack of technology or forward thinking. And I get to predict what I feel is going to be happening in the talent industry. So what I've been inspired by lately is the fact that digital twins and things that I've imagined in my head for a number of years and have studied over 10 or 12 years ago when I joined IBM. And Watson is actually coming to fruition, and what I call the public is actually accepting and leaning into some of that. So this group has inspired me to dig into my creativity and know there's people like Kyle out there and the rest of you that my ADD is acceptable and creative right brain, left brain does work in this crazy world that we live in. And what I can offer is anything that it has to do with software solutions, getting a job, maintaining a good job. And yeah, I have a degree in fashion merchandising, which is crazy because I don't know how I got here, but when I do untangle that web, it's interesting to reflect back on and go forward with. So collaboration ideas, I'm actually working on predictive analytics for people who are like my son, actually, who is a 9/11 baby all the way to a pandemic baby, and what the world's going to actually do with them and for them as they proceed forward with AI. So,
beautiful. Thank you, Alicia. That's great.
My pleasure.
All right, we are at the top of the hour. Those of you non-hand raisers, you've succeeded in staying in the back of the room and not sharing your awesomeness. So next time, we're going to get you. We chatted too much, Cyndi. We didn't leave enough time to pick on the introverts, you know?
Listen, I mentioned this right at the top. You know, you're going to invite me in. I'm going to be chatty.
We're talkers.
I'm
talkers. I'm a talker. I'm a loud talker. No one can be in my presence when I'm doing this stuff. I just you're loud. I'm like, I know. All right, everybody. Well, this is awesome. Really nice hearing from y'all, and hope you have a fantastic week. And really great to see y'all. Thank y'all.
It's super fun. Bye,
Thanks, everyone.
everybody.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.